What if the flavors on your dinner table were shaped by journeys across oceans thousands of years ago? What if a bowl of Indonesian curry and a Mediterranean stew shared the same ancient story? From the fragrant ports of Southeast Asia to the bustling harbors of the Mediterranean, spices once traveled farther than kings, armies, or empires. Tiny seeds and dried roots crossed dangerous seas aboard wooden ships, connecting civilizations through taste, trade, and survival. Tonight, we follow the forgotten spice routes. A journey of galangal, cloves, saffron, cinnamon, and star anise. A story that transformed global cuisine forever. This is not just the history of food. This is the history of humanity written in spice. The world before globalization. Long before airplanes, before railways, and even before modern nations existed, the oceans were already alive with trade. The Indian Ocean became the world's first global highway. For over 2,000 years, merchants from Arabia, India, China, Persia, Indonesia, and the Mediterranean exchanged silk, gold, ceramics, perfumes, and most importantly, spices. At the heart of this vast network stood Southeast Asia. The islands of modern-day Indonesia were once known as the legendary Spice Islands. These tropical lands produced rare treasures the rest of the world desperately wanted. Cloves, nutmeg, mace. For centuries, these spices grew nowhere else on earth. To medieval Europeans, they were worth more than gold. A sack of cloves could buy property. Nutmeg was believed to cure disease. And cinnamon became a symbol of wealth and luxury. But these spices didn't simply appear in Mediterranean kitchens overnight. They traveled thousands of kilometers across monsoon seas, through pirate-infested waters, across empires and deserts. And with every journey, cultures blended together. The aromatic bridge of the Indian Ocean, the secret to ancient maritime trade, was not technology. It was the wind. For centuries, sailors mastered the monsoon winds of the Indian Ocean. These seasonal air currents allowed ships to travel from Southeast Asia to India, Arabia, and East Africa with remarkable precision. Every year, fleets loaded with spices departed Indonesian ports. Their cargo included galangal, a citrusy root related to ginger; star anise, sweet and licorice-like; cloves, intensely aromatic flower buds; and pepper, the black gold of the ancient world. These spices first reached India. Indian traders became the middlemen of the spice world, blending Southeast Asian ingredients into their own cuisine before exporting them westward. Soon, Arab merchants carried these treasures across the Arabian Sea toward Egypt and the Mediterranean. Ports like Alexandria, Venice, and Constantinople became gateways where East met West. The spice trade didn't just move goods. It moved ideas, religions, languages, recipes. The kitchen became one of humanity's earliest meeting places. Galangal, the forgotten root that traveled the world today, galangal is strongly associated with Thai and Indonesian cuisine. Its sharp, pine-like aroma defines dishes like tom yum soup and Indonesian curries. But centuries ago, galangal was also common in medieval Europe. In fact, during the Middle Ages, galangal appeared in Mediterranean medical texts and royal recipes. Arab traders introduced it to Europe through spice markets in Venice and Cairo. Medieval cooks prized galangal for its warming flavor and medicinal properties. It flavored meat stews, wines, and sauces. Some historians even describe galangal as one of the lost spices of Europe, an ingredient once famous, now largely forgotten in Western cuisine. This root from tropical Southeast Asia had quietly crossed oceans and entered European kitchens long before modern globalization existed. Star anise, and the geometry of flavor. Star anise looks almost magical. Its star-shaped pods resemble something from astronomy more than agriculture. Native to southern China and parts of Southeast Asia, star anise became one of the most recognizable spices traded across Asia. Its sweet, warm aroma eventually traveled westward through maritime and overland trade routes. In Southeast Asia, it flavored broths, noodle soups, and herbal medicines. But in the Mediterranean world, similar flavor profiles already existed through fennel and anise seeds. When star anise arrived, it merged naturally into existing culinary traditions. This is how food evolves, not by replacing cultures, but by blending with them. The chemistry of flavor became a universal language. Saffron and cloves, a global fusion. Somewhere between Southeast Asia and the Mediterranean, two spices formed an unlikely partnership. Saffron and cloves. Saffron originated far from Indonesia. Its delicate crimson threads likely emerged from ancient Persia or nearby regions. Meanwhile, cloves came exclusively from the Indonesian islands. Yet by the medieval period, both spices appeared together in elite kitchens across the Islamic world and the Mediterranean. Rice dishes, meat stews, and ceremonial feasts combined the floral richness of saffron with the intense warmth of cloves. This pairing survives even today. In Moroccan tagines, in Middle Eastern rice dishes, in festive biryanis of South Asia, and in certain Mediterranean desserts. These recipes are living evidence of ancient globalization. The spice routes connected ecosystems thousands of kilometers apart and united them on a single plate. Behind every spice stood a city. And behind every city stood a network of traders, sailors, translators, and navigators. One of the most important ports in history was Malacca, in modern-day Malaysia. Whoever controlled Malacca controlled the spice trade between the Indian Ocean and the South China Sea. Ships from China, Java, India, Arabia, and East Africa gathered there. Languages mixed in crowded markets. Religions coexisted beside warehouses filled with pepper and cloves. Far to the west, Venice became Europe's spice capital. Venetian merchants purchased Eastern spices through Arab intermediaries and sold them throughout Europe at enormous profits. Spices transformed Venice into one of the wealthiest cities on earth. Meanwhile, Cairo and Alexandria served as crucial Mediterranean gateways linking Africa, Arabia, and Europe. These cities weren't just commercial hubs. They were cultural laboratories where cuisines evolved through contact. How spices changed human history. The global hunger for spices changed the course of history. European kingdoms became obsessed with finding direct sea routes to Asia. Why? Because Arab and Venetian traders controlled the profitable spice networks. The desire for cloves, nutmeg, cinnamon, and pepper helped launch the age of exploration. Portuguese navigators sailed around Africa. Spanish expeditions crossed the Atlantic. Empires rose and fell chasing flavor. Even Christopher Columbus was searching for spices when he accidentally reached the Americas. The spice trade influenced colonization, naval warfare, and global economics. Tiny ingredients shaped empires. The science of spice. But why were spices so valuable? Partly because they transformed food. Before refrigeration, spices helped preserve meat and mask spoilage. But there was something deeper happening. Spices trigger powerful chemical reactions in the human brain. Cloves contain eugenol, a compound with a warm, numbing sensation. Star anise contains anethole, responsible for its sweet licorice flavor. Galangal contains aromatic oils that create sharp citrus notes. These compounds stimulated appetite, improved preservation, and carried medicinal benefits according to ancient beliefs. Across civilizations, humans discovered similar flavor principles independently. That is why Southeast Asian curries and Mediterranean stews can feel strangely connected. Both cuisines evolved around balancing sweetness, warmth, bitterness, acidity, and aroma. The spice roots unified culinary chemistry long before modern science explained it. The disappearing roots over time, the old spice roots faded. Colonial powers seized direct control over spice-producing regions. Industrialization changed trade forever. Steamships replaced monsoon navigation. Modern logistics replaced seasonal sailing. And many ancient culinary connections were forgotten. Today, people often view cuisines as isolated national identities. Thai food, Italian food, Moroccan food, Indian food. But history tells a different story. Cuisine has never respected borders. Every recipe carries memories of migration, trade, adaptation, and exchange. The flavors we call traditional are often the result of centuries of cultural blending. The modern legacy of the spice roots even today, the legacy of the spice roots surrounds us. A Turkish coffee flavored with cardamom. An Indonesian rendang rich with cloves. Indian biryani. Thai curry. These dishes are connected by invisible maritime threads stretching across history. Modern globalization may feel new, but humanity has been connected through flavor for thousands of years. Food became the world's first universal language. And spices were its alphabet. The map that united humanity. The forgotten spice routes were more than trade networks. They were bridges between civilizations. Through storms and uncertainty, ancient sailors carried tiny fragments of distant worlds, dried flowers, roots, seeds, and bark. Subscribe, like and share, and thank you for watching this video.